What do the Warriors do without Steph? Like, I was having this question, I was just conversation with your brother last night, and he was like, "Well, who is Moses Moody on this team?" And I said, "Well, is it with Steph or without Steph? Because the Moses Moody with Steph gets shots in rhythm, is a three-point shooter, and has opportunities to make plays. And the Moses Moody without Steph, it looks like he's slow as molasses, can't get his own shot off. And yesterday, I didn't even know if he played 10 minutes yesterday. It was really bad. But it made me think, like, when Steph doesn't play, can they do things to compete because they are so specifically um that they are created specifically in the mindset of him. And so then when he's not there, it's almost like they don't really know what to do offensively.
I mean, yeah, it makes a little bit of sense given that the offense is, you know, it's for Steph, all the off-ball movement. It's because you have to worry about a guy past the three-point line that no other team really has. So it makes sense when he goes out that, some of the stuff they do doesn't work because you don't have to worry about someone, from past the three-point line. So it's probably easier to stop. But yeah, Moses's flaws get probably exposed more when Steph's missing. Steph's able to help hide some of the slowness that he has, and then I feel like the guys who kind of are able to make it look decent when he's gone are people who are kind of able to do something with the ball in their hands. Pajemski looks like he had a relatively good game. To be honest, I only finished about half of last night's game. I heard that I actually had a ticket to last night's game.
Oh,
Uh, but I sold it because we were supposed to go with some friends and then it ended up not working out. And I was like, well, shoot, I just bought this ticket. Like, let's see if I could sell it. It's a singular ticket. And I was able to sell it.
did you get your money back?
It was one of those where you could buy like a $30 Warriors ticket. Doesn't matter. It was one of those deals. So I bought a $30 Warriors ticket and I was worried that I wouldn't be able to sell it because I was buying like a deal. But then they let me sell it. And so I was like, I don't even care about making money. Like, I just want to make my $30 back. And someone bought it within like seconds.
Mm.
But people who are able to do something with the ball in their hands, or people who, are their roles on the team when Steph's there is to be like a cutter. Like GP2 kind of just like hangs out around the rim and is able to just like get these inside passes. And Will Richard kind of does a little bit of that too. But, you
And
know,
then oddly, GSP GP2 has his two best games of the season with Steph not there.
mhm,
Last night and then against the Pelicans, where he was awesome both nights. So
yeah.
weird.
Yeah. I kind of feel like it's a little like, I know Steph's older and there's going to be more games without him than there ever were before, because he's getting older and he might need to miss some games and there's going to be some injuries that come that maybe don't happen when he's younger, post all the ankle stuff. But like, this team's nothing without him. They have no shot. So I guess I still have a little bit of optimism, around that. I think I had like higher optimism, of course, going into the season, but now we're floating around 500 and it's like, okay, can you still be that 48-49 win team? I think, talked about it on a podcast yesterday we did a BAM show yesterday, but
I
it's
saw
just,
that. You guys
yeah,
actually busted one out.
yeah, we actually posted, and then my co-host forgot to tell me that my mic wasn't on. He just didn't use
Uh,
his ears, I guess. It's so different, the AirPod to the mic. But I think there is still a little something, with the heavy schedule. It's going to even out. So how do they play once it evens out? They are still. If you look back on the year, they have won some games where you're like, oh, is this team? Like you said, this team has kind of always been able to put it together when um, they're just like kind of wake up and win a tough game. But then, they lose some bad ones. And I have some examples, of course, like that Lakers game. The Lakers looked like a really good team. And even when LeBron wasn't there, they looked really good. And I know it was the first game of the season, but it kind of felt like the Warriors did not see them as a threat. Like they kind of handled business pretty easily. And in the second game of the season, you go to overtime against Denver. Denver's the number 2 or number 3 team in the West right now, or something like that. Like, kind of feels like that's a game that they wouldn't have won in previous seasons. A game that goes to overtime against Jokic. He's kind of put us away in a lot of games since that playoff series in 2021-22. Um, And then, you go throughout the season, then you have some bad losses, Milwaukee, Indiana, but then you have those 2 Spurs wins where it's just like this team can really get it done. And then of course some more bad losses. And what does that leave you? It leaves you 500. You win games that, maybe it feels like you shouldn't. You lose games that you should win, and then you just even out to 500. So I'm just wondering, Melton coming back, like I listened to Plus Minus, and I know that there was a conversation with TK and Draymond where Draymond's like, I don't want to expect much from Melton because I felt like we did that with Dennis Schroeder last year, and that kind of weighed on him heavily. And he, then you see what ends up happening with Dennis. We put too much on him. He doesn't perform. He kind of gets blamed, and then he's off. He gets shipped off to.
TK has a little bit of drama from Schroeder because he thought Schroeder was gonna be helpful, and then he wasn't.
But with Melton, I have some hope that even if he's 80% of the guy he was for those quote unquote 6 games of last year, that it's going to be a help. You see what Seth does, 14 points yesterday. And I if of course I only watch like half of the game. So what the half that I watch, Buddy Hield puts up a 3, goes in. And his second 3 goes in. His third 3, it gets fouled, so it doesn't count. So he shoots 3 free throws. But that guy, man, is just a completely different ball player when he's ever
And
able
then
to
I
put the
think he
ball in.
missed his next
He
5.
missed the next 7, I think it
Oh,
was.
is
I think
that
he
what it
finished 2 for 9.
was?
But I think we talked some trades yesterday, and I have some names to propose. But I think if this team goes as currently constructed, maybe you're a little bit above 500. I think we've all been expecting something to happen with that Kaminga thing, and it's like, I think something definitely needs to happen. But ultimately, like I feel like a lot of the conversation this year is like the depth surrounding the big 3, like Draymond, Steph, and Butler. It's like, can anyone else produce other than those 3 guys? And so the depth is getting criticized. But I feel like last year in the playoffs, it kind of felt like you didn't hear that. And of course, when you're winning, you don't hear that. But like, I almost remember some stuff where it's like, oh, we like the Warriors' depth. We like that, some of these guys at the end of the bench that are able to come in and help, and some Guy Santos minutes sprinkled here and there when they're winning, and it looks way better when they're losing.
He's barely
Um,
even playing these days.
right. So, it's again, we've said it, it's the same roster plus, Horford and Melton. So minus Looney. So like it's plus Seth. So, um, do you have any thoughts about this team? Because I do want to throw some names at you.
Well, my couple things. The worry is that the worse Kaminga plays, like the harder it is going to be for them to get somebody who can be helpful. He had an awful first half, the same indecision, can't decide what he's going to do, and thus then the defense collapses, and then he's got to pass the ball out. But in the second half, he started crashing the boards, played much better. I know a lot of Warriors fans are wondering why he didn't play late. I know his agent was tweeting about it that Steve Kerr did not go back to
That
Kaminga.
guy, man.
Um, and so that is a worry of mine. The other part of it is, and we kind of talked about this in the beginning of the season, which is when the roster is that old, you just hope that the injuries kind of are spread out, or they all happen at one point and then you're healthy at the other point. Right now, no Steph, and the latest news is that he's going to be out at least until they believe they come back home, which is like 9 days from today as we're recording December 3rd, Wednesday evening. So that would be, he would miss the entire road trip because they play Philly and Cleveland and Chicago in 3 games, and then they come back. Let me make sure I have this right. So yeah, so it's Philly Thursday, Cleveland Saturday, Chicago Sunday. Then they have all the way off until Friday. And this is this because of the cup?
Yeah, the Cup's next weekend.
So they have a bunch of days off just to like they'll actually be able to practice, which
Mhm.
because of all the back-to-backs and we talked about the scheduling and stuff. This will be a nice rest for them. And then they get Steph back, maybe they get Horford back. I don't know if Melton is going to be back by then, but you saw the addition of.
Melton's back next game.
Is he really playing
He's
this
playing
on
against
the road
Philly.
trip? No way.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not see that. That is great news, actually. And then, like, you saw the addition of Seth, and, your brother and I were talking about the like, comparing Seth to Buddy. And Buddy's shot, he's struggling with the shot. And we saw that last year. He'd get hot for, like, 2 or 3 games, then he'd be cold for, like, the next 6 or 7 games. And then in the playoffs, he played so well. And one of the things that we noticed is that Seth can actually create his shot with his footwork. You see a
Mhm.
lot of those sidestep shots, and he the way he shoots it, he actually shoots it a lot different than Steph. He shoots it above his head, so he can actually get that thing high. He was doing that yesterday. I was like, because you see him, and he's got the long tights on, and he's got the headband on, and he kind of plays like old man game in the way he moves. And, like, he didn't look like he was in fantastic shape, and then all of a sudden, he's just busting out all these shots, and they're just dropping. It's like, "Oh my god, where did this guy come from?" You know what it reminded me of a little bit? You remember that movie I took you and, your brother to, Uncle Drew? That's
Mhm.
what it reminded me. I was like, When did Seth become Uncle Drew out there?" But so that's great. And Melton, I think is a little bit of a Obi-Wan Kenobi, your only hope here, at least with their roster is right now until
But
whatever
like
happens with
if
JK.
that's yeah, like how the roster is now, but if that's like your only hope, then like this team's already done to begin with. Like
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But to go back to that point about the depth is good when you're winning, and when you're
yeah,
losing, then you
like
point
trade
at it.
everyone.
So, those are most of my thoughts, but, Horford coming back, like, we haven't seen him. People were like, "Oh, I wish we had Looney, I wish we had Looney," and I'm like, "Yeah, of course." But let's see if Horford actually blends with this team a little bit better. So that would be the other piece, but Jimmy Butler is questionable. I think Kuminga's questionable. Steph is still out. So, these guys just need to get a little healthier. So, yeah. What were your trade thoughts?
Just that there's a I've seen some trade rumors. Of course the big one, Giannis.
Hmm.
There was a Zion trade rumor. Like I know we've always kind of speculated with Zion, but I feel like it was the first time I've actually seen a report that was like, we'll accept an offer for Zion. I was like, oh wow, okay, so we're here. But there's been one that hasn't been reported that I've been kind of intrigued with, and I mentioned it for at length in my podcast from yesterday. But there's a player on Memphis that is making $38 million right now that plays the four, but has the size of a five and gets knocked for not rebounding and went to Michigan State, so he's buddies with Draymond. I feel like I would like to know what Memphis fans think about Jaren Jackson's trade availability because he's having a pretty poor season to start. Like and it's funny because I'm just in so many fantasy leagues, so sometimes I see like I judge them from a fantasy point perspective and not even from like a points rebounds perspective. But I have him in some of my leagues, and I'm just like, wow, dude, like this is like some bench player like output right now. And it's funny because I'm about to say I want him from the Warriors, but it's more because I think you can buy low, or you might be able to buy low. So he's making $38 million right now, and then next year is when a big contract kicks in. It's like $50 million a year for 4 or 5 years, player option, and he's going to be like 29, 30 by the end of it.
Hmm.
Um, but just to be able to like you put together Kaminga and Buddy, and you throw some picks in there, it's like, what does that do? Like, I'm just confused about Memphis's situation, what they're looking at, what they want to do. Like, it looked like this year they were probably going to go try to do something again. They finally got Ja and Jaren back healthy, and then it's like clearly Ja's not available, and Edie was out to start the season, and so I don't necessarily know what's going on over there and who's available and who's not. But I'm surprised I haven't heard his name
Hmm.
floated in trade rumors, considering how much he's going to get paid next year. Like, what he's putting out right now, and then you see a $50 million price tag on him starting next year. Like, how is that not someone maybe you want to get off
Hmm.
in Memphis's perspective? So I think he would be awesome on the Warriors. I know that there's the foul thing that Draymond's always kind of able to bait him with when we play
I was about
him.
to say their foul problems don't get better with him on the team.
Yeah. But I'm just wondering if there's some type of like mentor relationship that Draymond already has with him with the Michigan State thing. I know I've already said that 3 times, but I just wonder if this is a good place for him to
Who
be
would
able to
Memphis take back?
like it all it needs to be is like I think JK Moody and a $1 million player, whoever that is on the
And
Warriors. And you
picks,
bring
right? Memphis
Yeah,
would
of
want
course, of
picks for
course.
him.
Of course, some picks, yeah. But I mean, you could even swap Moody and Buddy. I'm just saying from a money perspective, like that's what it takes to get there.
Mhm.
From a picks perspective, like I'm of the camp of like send in as much as you can. Of course, I don't want to get fleeced, but I wonder if his trade value has dropped, say what it was the start of the year or last year, even where I think for the Warriors, I think Bill Simmons did like a Gafford mock trade,
Yeah, for
and I
Kuminga.
think Gafford's great, but I just wonder like Jimmy's not really a shooter. Draymond, of course, is not a shooter. Gafford cannot shoot the 3 ball. Like, we're in the era of like 4 shooters on the court at all times. Like, I know we've kind of been a Draymond Looney 4 or 5 non-shooter thing for the longest time now, but I think we're kind of past that with you don't want 3 non-shooters in your starting lineup. So I've just been trying to think of who is a center that stretches the floor that doesn't give up anything defensively, and that's a rare breed. That's a hard player to find. That's a costly player because any player that could stretch the floor, say like a Vucevic, they
Mhm.
give up the defense. Quentin Post, they give up the defense, and you could name them all. But there's a couple in Miles Turner and Jaren Jackson Jr. that both might be available, given
Mhm.
if Giannis is gone, that they could shoot the 3 and not give up anything defensively. And I know Miles Turner's had a rough start, and I've already mentioned Jaren Jackson Jr.'s rough start. But man, you put him in this system where they are like the fourth guy. Like I would take that risk, and I think that's what they need right now is a big. And what's funny is both of those players kind of get criticized also for rebounding, but the Warriors
Yeah.
do a really good job of gang rebounding. And I just wonder if you have a 7-footer out there that can move really well, could play offense, could play defense, like if things start to change. And so yeah, that's kind of what I want to know from maybe some people in the know is what is Jaren Jackson Jr.'s availability, because I think he's been not playing well. I think his contract looks kind of crazy right now, starting next year, $50 million for a year. Um, and I think the Warriors picks could be potentially considered valuable, in those later years. I don't know how much the Warriors would want to give up of those later years that Steph might not be around, because those could be some pretty valuable picks.
Mhm.
Um, but I just wonder what it would take to get something like that done. And, Marcus said on the pod today, he's just Kobe White or Trey Murphy. I'm
Mm.
down for either of those guys. Down for either of those guys. But it's like, can you do Jaren Jackson Jr. and a Keon Ellis? So someone to help with the point of attack
Yeah.
that could be in the rotation. Like does that just feels like it solves a lot. And
Well,
I feel like
well,
you
what
got you
what
got to buy
about
low.
we talked about this person because we got to watch the Houston game in person.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about TJ McConnell because that was the name last week that had come out that he could possibly be moved. Would the Warriors be interested in TJ McConnell? Like if you saw how Pat Spencer played last night, like Pat Spencer was one of the only guys who could actually get to the spot that he wanted. And TJ McConnell is that plus a better shot, plus a better finisher. So that would be interesting too to help
Yeah.
with that second team. But yeah, it is players like that. And for whatever reason, maybe the Warriors just thought Pods was going to be that guy and he's just not. But they could use somebody like that, like you mentioned, just to get to the paint. And then it feels like everybody wants Trey Murphy though.
And the thing is, he's one of the guys that I haven't seen. I haven't seen him or Kobe White like get like, oh, we're looking to trade them. Like, either of those guys, I haven't seen anything from their respective teams.
Yeah.
I just think Trey Murphy is like, okay, say the Pelicans want to be like, oh, we have this player named Derek Queen who's a rookie and just got us 45 points. Like, we think we want to start maybe shifting to building around that guy. Well, guess
Mm-hmm.
who fits around Derek Queen? Trey
Mm-hmm.
Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who fits around Zion? Trey Murphy. So it's like, I don't know why they would want to trade him. But I guess I don't
Yeah,
know.
they
So
need to get rid of Zion. They don't need to get rid of Trey Murphy.
yes, I completely agree with that. That's why I think it's going to be a player who might not like Wiggs. When we got Wiggs, I was kind of like, really? Like, that's what we got from, like, like, I wasn't, like, head over heels about the idea of Wiggins, because I mean, of course, people may be listening to this now are being like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, Wiggins is like, dude, revisionist history. Like, I don't know if you remember what Wiggins was
Mhm.
when we got him, but it was a player who hadn't done anything really, and there was those questions always about, like, oh, he kind of has like that Buddy Hield cycle where it's like, wow, Wiggs looks really good for 3 games, and then he kind of disappears for X amount of games, and then of course that ends up being like one of the best trades I think in this dynasty's
Mhm.
um just lifespan, being able to get that draft pick and Wiggins for D'Angelo Russell.
You got a title
That was
out of
a
it. Absolutely.
fleece and a half. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something like that, where it's like, I wasn't head over heels about Wiggs. I would be head over heels about Jaron. Like, I would be very excited to get that guy on the team. But is there, think maybe more in that direction than some of the obvious fits, I guess.
So the last time we talked, I had mentioned, they really need to go like 5-1 or 4-1 on this 5-game homestand. 3-2
Yeah.
almost felt like, that's we should do better than that. And then they go 2-3. And some of that is because Steph gets hurt. Now, who
Steph.
knows? They may not win that Houston game even if he's healthy, because they were tooth and nail the whole time. But 2-3, and then you get the kick in the nuts of Steph getting hurt at the same time. So that was a bad homestand. Now, my question to you is, no Steph. Jimmy's questionable for Thursday, but they go Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. 3 games.
Another back to back.
Cleveland is not fantastic, but the Warriors match up terribly against Cleveland. I'm putting
Yep.
that one as an L. So that's the one I say they lose. Can they beat Philly, who is a little bit above 500, and Chicago, who is a little bit below 500, but they're all sort of right in the same mix? Can they beat those 2 teams and actually gain a game on this road trip?
I think it feels more likely that that's not going to happen, but I don't think it's completely like out of the question. I think they've kind of have had Chicago's number, since 20. I mean, probably for the longest time, but I think like even this newer iteration of Chicago where you had the Levine DeMar duo, like, I know it's not there anymore, but I don't remember them really losing games against Chicago since then. So maybe you can pull something off there, and then Philly's going to be an interesting one because Tyrese Maxey's been pretty crazy to start the year,
Mhm.
and I don't know
And
if
who
Embiid's
will
back
guard
or not.
him?
Who, jeez, you talk about guards that have killed us this year and having career games, and Reed Shepard and Ryan Rollins. Allow me to introduce you one of the best scoring guards in the league.
How's their rookie? Is their rookie still playing well?
He is, but he was hurt, so he had a pretty good game. I forget if it was yesterday or 2 days ago, but yeah, Jared McCain's back too. So like they've kind of have a full. They're starting to become healthy and have a full lineup, and I'm interested in how their rotations look because they just have a lot of guys that are, I feel like I would want on the Warriors. But that's a team to beat as they're trying to figure all that stuff out. Like that's a win you could sneak. Um, and we've also haven't really always had like the roughest time with Joel.
Mhm.
He always plays well, but I think we usually beat the Sixers. Like we killed them last year when I went. So it's possible. I just don't think it's likely. Of course, when you're missing your best player, the entire system is you know based on how this player plays. See some Seth Curry, man. I'm interested in seeing some Seth Curry. How about that's the state of this team?
All right. So I guess the other thing I wanted to talk. You mentioned it a little bit already with the news about Giannis, but let's talk a little bit about the NBA here. A sad. I don't know why I was so sad about this, but Chris Paul got cut, or they came to terms and they waived him. And so he's no longer a Clipper, and he and Ty Lue weren't getting along, and people were kind of like, the report that I saw was people weren't happy with how vocal he was, or maybe he was being negative. I was like, yeah, that's what happens when you're not the best player on the team anymore. Like, those same words don't mean as much. I
Yeah,
kind of felt bad for him though, and then at the same time, I was like, could the Warriors use it? And it was like, no, that did not work well when it was okay, but it didn't mean that they were a better team because he was on it. But I was like, could he run the second team? And he'd have the same issues that all their guards currently have with the more athletic, faster players. But
Yeah.
yeah, CP, man, kind of bummed.
I'm bummed too. I can't help but think that there was some James Harden influence.
Mm.
Because wasn't there an issue with James Harden and CP just having very like almost contrasting leadership styles in Houston? Like towards the end of that Houston regime there, like there was some butting heads and they weren't like totally friends. They weren't friends at all after. Like I wonder if there was some Harden influence to get my Clippers buddy just says no. It's like Ty Lue and what is it? Lawrence Frank is their GM or something. Like those guys need to go, but Ballmer hasn't cut them, and he's saying that they might have some dirt on Ballmer for the aspirations.
Oh. Oh. Maybe CP has some dirt on him.
Maybe someone tweeted that CP knows where the trees are buried.
So the Giannis thing, there's not much about the Giannis thing. Just Shams
I mean,
reported
there
that.
is though, because that's it. Feels like impending doom. That's what I worried about, and I went on a long rant about the Oklahoma City Thunder on how like I'm worried about you know
Them
their
getting Giannis.
just them having the war chest of picks and kind of just holding it over everyone. Like we could go for Giannis, or we don't have to, or we could go for all these players. Like there's,
Would they have to? Would that they would have to change their offense a little bit? You can't have Shea and Giannis kind of do similar things with the basketball.
I know, but it's just your turn, my turn. Go sit on that damn corner while Giannis cooks, vice versa. Um, but they can literally do a trade for Giannis, and I don't know how future salary cap would look, but where you because Chet and J Dub are still on their rookie deals, and I believe next year is when their actual extensions kick in. So they don't even make that much money right now. It'd be like a Hartenstein, I forget what like it's like Hartenstein, Dort, and I think Cason Wallace or Jalen Williams, the bigger Jalen Williams instead of Cason.
Mm-hmm.
That would get it done money wise. And the thing is why like you think with Giannis it's like okay you want a young player and picks where I just don't know how many teams can offer that. And with Oklahoma City Thunder it's like how about we give you 7 first round picks because we have 8 more that we're okay with. Like they just overload the trade offer with picks where they could bypass the we need a promising young player with that. I think they can. That's why like an offer of Hartenstein, Dort, and Case and Wallace is just there to get to the money, and you're not, then we'll just overload you with the amount of firsts that we own. But the thing with the Bucks though is that we have to keep an eye out for is that they don't even own their future. So it's like if you get rid of Giannis, like 1,000% you should try to tank and rebuild. But if you don't own your first round picks, maybe you want to try and trade Giannis in a deal where you get that stuff back. But they have pick swaps and firsts like sent to Atlanta, I believe sent to New Orleans if that's still from the Drew Holiday deal, and then of course Portland from the Dame deal. They're just everywhere, like except for with the Bucks. So I don't know how they're going to do this. I think Giannis is not going to be a Buck by the start of next season. I'm not as I don't know. Do you think he gets traded by the deadline, or do you think it's more of an offseason thing?
I have a hard time because of this second apron stuff, seeing how these trades actually work. Like even easy trades seem like they're really hard to do. And this one, it seems like a nuts trade. You mentioned OKC. Isn't the Spurs one even scarier?
Yes, at the OKC and Spurs are like the two teams I'm like just looking at and seeing like who's gonna do it, who's gonna do it. And with OKC, I feel like they can wait until the offseason and make a deal for Giannis so they can include, maybe it's Chet. So that because I'm interested on how the books will look. Because if you keep, because like I said, you can make the trade right now without Chet or Jada because they're on their rookie deals. But what happens when next year kicks in and $14 million goes to $40 million for both of those players? And now you're on the books of Shea at 50, Giannis at 50, and then J Dub and Chet at 40-40. Like what ends up you go into the second apron and then all that stuff starts to happen. So I'm wondering, like, would they rather wait till in the offseason and just trade Chet and one other player for Giannis and be able to stay under the second apron. But in my mind, if I'm, Presti, like, do I maybe wanna make the move now so that San Antonio won't get him?
Mhm.
Because if he goes to San Antonio, it feels like, you know, of course, so many things can happen in this crazy league, but it would seem like he's there for a while. People don't go to San Antonio and wanna leave if you're a
Right.
star.
Right. Yeah, that is pretty fascinating. Just the idea. I mean, we've been waiting for it, right? Like people, once Giannis became Giannis, he got his title. It was almost like the clock started ticking as to
Yes,
when
totally
he was
agree.
going to be gone. So, yeah, and the Warriors, the Warriors, Steph. Remember when Steph drafted him in that All Star game? But the Warriors just don't have enough. They are. I like, I can't even imagine how they would even try and compete with an offer unless Giannis was like, "I only wanna go to one place," which I don't think is gonna happen.